Good evening. Hey, it's Sharona, and you are watching The Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday night, 6 o'clock usually 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We had a special time last week because my guest needed to come in an hour later, and so we're always happy to do that. But ordinarily, we come to you live every Friday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time from the National Gridiron Network, www.nationalgridironnetwork.com. Be sure to jump on there and check out all the great articles and the other shows that we produce. Check out my AFC South training camp primer. I give you all the dates, times, and locations for training camps in the AFC South. I did an update for you guys on rookies that could have an impact in the AFC South, and I'm anxious to talk to my guest tonight about the Indianapolis Colts because there are a couple of players. Their draft wasn't very highly evaluated or graded, but there are a couple of players I think could have some impact this year. So we will see. But without further ado, I want to bring Cecily Doyle in, who is one of my sisters at NFL Female. I'm so happy to have her talking to me tonight. Cecily, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Now, am I pronouncing your name right? I should have asked you that. I'm so terrible on names.
It's okay. I've got a hard one. My name is Cecily.
Cecily. Okay. Well, my Tuesday night show for NFL Female is with Sonia, and her name is spelled like Sonia, and so I really had to get used to that. And so if I mess up, just please forgive me. Now, you're a Canadian, which I'm so excited about that. Really, a lot of women in Canada follow the league. Are you part of any kind of groups or anything up there besides NFL Female?
Surprisingly not. A lot of the people that I talk about football with are guys, but
Yeah.
It's nice having NFL Female there because it's a group of women that I can talk about football with, and it's nice because it helps me introduce more women to the sport up here.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how thankful and grateful I am to have become associated with NFL Female. Really a great group of women, and if you're like me, your sporting activities have largely centered around the boys because that's who watch sports or who traditionally have watched sports. But really the fan base for females is growing, and I think that's great to see, don't you?
Yeah, it's really exciting to watch more and more females. Like, I know my mom was never a big football fan, but when I actually told her about NFL Female and I told her I was writing for them, she started to actually read the articles on there, and she was more excited about football. Now she's got favorite players and things like that. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's
well,
great
good mom.
Yeah.
Now, does she follow the Colts too?
Yeah, she loves the Colts.
Does she? And I'm going to ask you how you became a fan of the Colts. But before we get there, I want to find. Now, you just graduated. Tell us about your degree, and what you plan to do.
I just graduated from the University of Guelph. I'm a Griffin. I graduated with an English degree. I really
Yay!
Yeah.
Solidarity.
I really want to get into sports information. I still work for the Griffins now as a sports information assistant.
Oh, good.
So it's all stats. It's recaps. It's an awesome job. It's the coolest thing I've ever done, and I just want to stay there, really.
Well, I hope that you can. I think that sounds awesome and amazing, and the perfect job. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for you that turns out. Give us their website. How can you find their website?
You want to check out the Griffins? You want to check out what the Griffins are doing? Go to griffins.ca, GRYPHONS.ca. And the Guelph Griffins, they have a great football program, actually. One of the best defenses in Ontario in the OUA. It's a great football program, and football fans would enjoy watching their defense.
I met one of their scouts last year. This is
Really?
so, yeah, last year at Titans training camp. He was amazingly nice and cool and everything. And so, yeah, I can totally believe that they're a great team up there because he was super cool. I wish I remembered his name. I have to go back and look. I think I've still got his card somewhere. So, yeah, that's great. Now, how did you become a fan of the Indianapolis Colts?
It's kind of a funny story because I wasn't really a huge football fan, but I used to rent a lot of video games.
Ah,
I rented Madden
you're a
one day.
gamer?
So I was like, yeah, I was a little bit of a
Your
gamer.
best friend.
And I was like, oh, I should rent Madden. So I decided that I was going to just pick a team randomly. Didn't know anything about football, but I really liked horses. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be the Colts. Keep in mind, I was like 11. So this was a while ago. It wasn't like last year. So I just picked them, and then I started watching their games. And of course, how can you not like a team that's,
Peyton
captained by
Manning.
Peyton Manning? Exactly. And I guess I kind of bandwagoned, if you can say that, but I really got into it in college. I just needed a pastime, and it turned into football.
Yeah. I like to I talk about fan wagoners mostly with the Miami Heat because they're the worst, right? But look, it's all in good fun, and look, we all do it, I mean, I became a fan of the San Antonio Spurs. Everybody likes to tease me because I'm a big Tim Duncan fan. But I grew up in Texas, and San Antonio to this day remains one of my favorite places in the entire world. It's beautiful. Well, the parts that I went to, I know that not all of it is beautiful, but the parts that I went to were beautiful. And people become fans for whatever reason, and you know what? That's all right. It doesn't matter at all. Now, a lot of people who became fans of the Colts because of Peyton. Well, I know that it wasn't entirely Peyton Manning, but did you consider becoming a fan of the Denver Broncos when he left to join them?
I thought about following the Broncos, obviously a little bit more closer. I am notorious for only following the AFC South.
Yeah.
So it was I thought about it, but I was just kind of like, we have an amazing group of rookies that are coming up. I don't
Yeah.
think that it'd be fair to just skip over to another team now.
Well, and they drafted Andrew Luck, and as luck turns out, he's pretty fantastic too, right?
Yeah, we were lucky enough to get a pretty good quarterback like straight away. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really kind of saved the Colts, don't you think?
I definitely think so. It's great watching Andrew build something again that we had with Peyton, and it was so quickly after. And I know that we're very, very lucky to have that.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on Ryan Grigson and the job that he's doing. But before we get to all of that, I want to thank you again for joining me. I hope that you'll come back and you can follow Cecily. And did I do it right?
It's good enough. You're
Oh
close.
my gosh, I'm so terrible about names. I feel so bad. Anyway, you can follow her on Twitter. I encourage you to follow her on Twitter. She's a great follow, and again, she's one of my sisters at NFL Female, and we need to get you on the NFL Female show. All right, so the Colts have really been able to take advantage of a weak AFC South. I think we can both agree that the AFC South has been pretty weak the last few years.
Definitely. Like it's always been kind of a two-dog race between the Colts and the Texans, and then with the Texans just kind of flopping the past couple of years, it's almost not even fun to watch division games. And I know that you're a Titans fan, and I feel so bad to say this, but like it's not fun being like a team that's so much better than the rest of the teams in the
No,
division.
you're not gonna hurt my feelings at all. It's kind of curious because initially, early on, back when the AFC South was in its inception in the early
Mhm.
years, I mean, it was kind of the Titans and the Jaguars,
Yes.
and then obviously after the glory days of Steve McNair and the great Titans teams and you can say what you want. Mark Brunell was pretty good for the Jaguars, and if you don't have a pretty good quarterback in the NFL, you're hurting.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the people like to talk about the Ravens, the 2000 Ravens, and I was fortunate to get to watch them play. And yeah, their defense was great and all of that, but there was a lot of luck associated too with what they were able to accomplish. Having a good quarterback is so important, and for the Titans and the Jaguars, that's been their, and really the Texans too. Although for a while Matt Schaub was very serviceable, but once he lost that edge, and boy, didn't he just fall off. I mean, it was like that. He just fell off. Once he lost his edge, you saw how both those the three teams, I shouldn't say both, all three of those teams struggled. So, but kind of new times now. The Titans, the Jaguars, and the Texans have new coaching staffs. The Jaguars in their second year with Gus Bradley, the Titans in their first year with Ken Wisenhunt, and the Texans in their first year with Bill O'Brien. So we will see whether that imbalance of power in the AFC South will change, and we'll talk a little bit more about that toward the end of the program. Let's go ahead and talk about the Indianapolis Colts draft, the 2014 draft. I liked a little bit about what they did in 2013. I was not as big a fan of the linebacker that they selected out of Florida State. I really thought that his counterpart, Tank Carradine, was the better player. What do you expect? And I'm struggling to remember his name. I know that he is
Werner, yeah, the German.
Yes, Bjorn. Yes, thank you. Yes. What do you expect out of him this year?
I'm expecting him to pick it up. I guess, like, a lot of people were expecting it to be really quick, like him just getting used to the NFL really quickly. But obviously working with Mathis, like, he's going to pick something up. And I expect him to have, like, a really steady growth period. He's not going to go, like, huge, like, awesome first season like Andrew Luck. I think that it's going to be a really steady growth period. And, I mean, he was a great rookie to pick up. He has a ton of potential. He's humongous.
He's big. He's very big.
Yeah, he was great at Florida State. So it was one of those things where, like, I mean, he was a good rookie with a lot of potential, and it was a spot that we needed to fill that year.
Is he going to be expected to pick up the slack that's going to be vacated because Robert Mathis is going to be out the first 4 games of the year?
I would assume so. I would definitely assume so. To be honest, it honestly really scares me because he is such a big part of our entire defense, not even just the front guys. It's scary. It's honestly really scary because we don't have another Mathis on our team to carry that slack. And while Werner has a lot of potential, he's not Robert Mathis, that's for sure.
No. And while I think that he's talented, I do question whether or not he ever will be. But we'll see. All right, so turning to 2014, obviously the Colts traded away their first-round draft pick to get Trent Richardson, a move that has been roundly criticized. I still like the move. I think that Trent Richardson is going to be a lot better. I think the criticism of him was a little bit overblown. The Colts' offensive line was atrocious last year, and they've done a little bit to address that. But it was not all on Trent Richardson. There were a lot of factors, I think, that went into his inability to be as productive as everyone expected or wanted him to be. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it. I tweeted out a very interesting film study by one of the guys over at Battle Reg blog, which is actually the Houston Texans blog, that was very supportive of Trent Richardson. The guy went through and watched all of his plays and said, really, it was amazing that he did as well as he did, considering how poorly the Colts line blocked. What do you think about that, and what do you think expectations should be for Trent Richardson this year?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of Trent Richardson, and I don't want him to be the starting running back per se, with Bradshaw and Ballard being back, but I know that he probably will start the first few games. just because Bradshaw and Ballard were out with season-ending injuries last year, they're going to want to hold off on starting them at the beginning of the season. With Richardson, it was one of those things where I was expecting him to kind of be like Vic Ballard a little bit. I know that Vic Ballard wasn't as good, obviously, in his first season as Trent Richardson, because Trent Richardson, had an amazing first season.
He did really well for the Browns.
I'm guessing that he'll probably improve this year just because he'll be used to being a Colt. It won't be, a third-week trade and he's the new guy on the team this year. So maybe going through camp and working with the Colts in the offseason will help gear him up and things like that. But, I mean, we've seen running backs perform at least better than Trent Richardson with our crappy O-line. So it was just kind of like I was expecting him to just kind of put up with it because that's what all of our other running backs do. The Colts just aren't known for having a good run game. So
yeah, that was kind of for occasionally they have particularly when Joseph Adai was at his peak. But yeah, overall that's not been really hasn't been their lifeline or their bread and butter. Do you think that they have done enough to correct their offensive line problems to help Trent Richardson? And that's my way of segueing into the second round pick.
I don't think that Mewhort's going to be like the guy that saves Trent Richardson's. I don't even think Mewhort's going to start. We already have Gauze Richarlison, who's probably going to be starting in that position anyways. So I don't think that they really addressed anything in the offseason so far, to be brutally honest with you. They haven't really done much in the offseason that's really going to, improve the team and, leaps and bounds. So while I think that Trent Richardson will improve this season, I don't think that it's going to be through much of what they've done for him. I think it'll be him just adjusting to having to play behind an O-line like that.
Yeah, I know that there have been various projections for Mewhort. He's a guy that has been projected to play a lot of different positions along the offensive line. Do you think that it's possible that he might get some looks, that they might try him at different positions to try to get him into the lineup?
I definitely could see that just because our offensive line is bad. It
really is.
Really to no disadvantage to try and figure out if he could be a strength somewhere else in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they could, I think, certainly do far worse than. Yeah. But obviously a lot of it's going to depend on how he does in training camp. I had him sort of pegged as one of the guys that with a strong training camp might be able to find a place along that struggling offensive line and might be a guy who could come in and help. And I don't think that he's going to be a barn burner by any means. But when we're talking about impact, a lot of times impact is hard to measure, especially when you're talking about offensive linemen. But if you can, protect Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck took a lot of hits last season, and you saw him having to make plays, being chased around, and the one of the great things about Andrew Luck is he's able to do that. He's able to operate under pressure. Maybe he might be a guy that that could have somewhat of an impact his first season, just because that offensive line is so bad. Now, the next pick, the third round pick, is the guy that I really want to talk about. The other guy that I thought could have a big impact, and that's Dante Moncrief, wide receiver from Ole Miss. And one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft. I thought that was a little bit of a steal for them. To me, it really saved their draft from being an utter disaster. Exactly. But being able to snag him in the third round, I thought was pretty brilliant. How do you feel about it?
I would say that he is the only player out of our entire draft class that I actually really liked. I
can understand that.
Yeah, we always need a wide receiver, always, because that's how our game is played. It's wide receivers. And with Darius Hayward-Bay just kind of being all season and then leaving, it was definitely, we needed a guy that was tall and fast and had good hands, and that's Dante Moncrief.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Derrick Rogers, who started his college career at my alma mater, the University of Tennessee. A guy who had a very troubled tenure there, went to Tennessee Technological University to finish out his college career, put up great numbers there, but went undrafted because of the issues that he had in college, and obviously there were some issues leading up to the draft too. You heard rumors about various things. He's a guy that if he ever gets it together and can realize the talent that he has, if you have him with T.Y. Hilton in the slot doing his thing, don't you think that that could be a pretty good wide receiver trio?
Definitely. I definitely think that all three of them are, I mean, Reggie Wayne's not going to play forever, and I'm glad that the Colts are learning from their mistakes that they had with Peyton, and they're like loading up on good quality young wide receivers. I think
Yeah.
that they're doing a really good job, even with Griff Whalen as well. He's another one of my favorite young wide receivers on our team.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, I'm excited about our wide receivers, and that's about it, to be honest. But
Were
like,
you at all shocked about what happened with Brazil?
um, not really. As soon as I heard about that third problem, I was just kind of like, cut him. It's not worth it.
It's not a shock that the Colts moved on, considering all of that. I'm not going to talk about Jim Irsay. I don't really want to get into all of that. I do find it curious, though, that his discipline still is lingering around out there. But you see what happened to that young man, and I wish him all the best. I hope that he's able to get it together and can you know be successful in life. But yeah, you can't you just can't do that. So very disappointing to see that happen. A lot of these young wide receivers are going through that. You saw it with Justin Blackman, and then Josh Gordon. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what to make of that. You didn't have a fourth round pick. Your fifth round pick, Jonathan Newsom, the defensive end from Ball State. Tell us what you think about that one.
Well, you know what? He's fast. He's a decent defensive end. I'm not going to take that away from him, but it doesn't matter because we didn't need a defensive end.
Okay.
Like when I didn't actually see that day of the draft. So when I saw that they drafted a defensive end, I was like, why? Why did you draft a defensive end? And I was reading around. I read Stampede Blue, which is the Colts blog, and
Right.
eight of the picks after him were all DBs.
Oh
That's
yeah.
That's what we needed. We didn't need a defensive end. We needed to draft a DB, and they didn't at all. So I was like, he's great. He's a great kid. I'm sure that, he could perform with us, but he's not what we needed.
Yeah, that is kind of curious that they would do that. This might be a good time to talk about Ryan Grigson. There's still a few more picks, and we'll get to them. I found the last couple of drafts to be a little bit head scratching. Grigson what drew praises, but it wasn't hard to pick Andrew Luck. I mean, who else? I mean, you could have picked RG3, sure, and I bet they did think about it. But the Andrew Luck pick was a little bit of a no-brainer. They hit big on that, but really, the rest of their drafts have been kind of meh.
I know. It was like in 2012 he had like a really great draft class, and that was his first year as our GM, I do believe. And it was like everybody was expecting like a huge rebuilding process. The whole hashtag Build the Monster came out, and it was like everybody was like, this is how our draft classes are going to be. We are going to be drafting monsters every single year. And then the very next year it was like, oh. And the guys that we drafted, I couldn't name them except for Bjorn. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of like nothing happened after that. We've had two really, really blah draft classes where we haven't really filled any gaps. We haven't taken care of any needs. It's just been like, that guy looks like a good guy to have on our team. You know what I mean? It's so
You have
arbitrary.
to wonder if he has any sort of plan in terms of his drafts. Now he goes out and makes big splashes in free agency. Do you think that he does a better job in free agency than he does in the draft?
I think even in free agency, there are some really questionable deals. And it's just kind of like, why did we spend so much money on that guy? Like, I love LaRon Landry, but we're paying him way too much money.
Okay.
And, like, it's one of those things where he makes, like, good moves, but it's almost like he's making those good moves just because we have a lot of cap space and he can just do it. It's almost hard to not make good moves. And I don't know, I don't know about Grigson. I think that he had a really good, like, 2012, and it's just been kind of like, what are you doing since then? I don't know where he's going with the plan for our team.
Yeah, you have to wonder how long he's going to be able to ride that I picked Andrew Luck, look how great I am vibe. And I do think that this is a big year for Ryan Grigson. Like we've talked about, I mean, the AFC South is so horrible that the Colts have been able to really take advantage of that. You would think, you would hope, especially for these teams who have made all of these wholesale changes, especially the Titans and the Texans this year. You would think that the salad days for the Colts are numbered, and they're going to have to face some better teams and tougher teams in the division.
I think that he should be worried because, honestly, all three of the other teams, even you guys who had not very many picks, still took advantage of the picks that you have. You still filled holes. We didn't have very many picks, and then we didn't fill any holes either, really. So it was like maybe one or two. But, like, it's kind of, he should be worried. I'm worried, to be honest with you, because seeing the changes that have happened with all three other teams, you guys are going to be a lot better this year.
Other than defensive back, who do you think that what positions do you think that they should have addressed?
We definitely, just our offensive line in general just needs to be addressed. We kind of hit it in free agency and then we don't. And I mean, we have a couple good guys that are good enough on our offensive line, but I feel like they don't draft like the best linemen all the time. And I know that they couldn't have this year just because we didn't have a first-round pick, and there were guards in the first round that we could have picked, but I don't know. They don't seem to be working very hard on fixing that. I don't think that having the fourth worst offensive line in the league is really hitting home with anybody in the front office.
Yeah, you have to wonder about that. You would have thought that they would have paid more attention to it. I know that a lot of Colts analysts did not like the Jack Mewhort pick. The one draft pick where they do address the offensive line, everybody was like, him?
Yeah.
And so you really and I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he's successful. But it was sort of an odd pick. I do think that he got drafted a little bit high, don't you?
I think that as well. I mean, he has a lot of potential. Like he's good at focusing on defenders and not letting guys by and things like that. But then in the same respect, he also goes very tunnel vision and he has trouble while like deconnecting from that guy and blocking another guy, and he misses blocks and things like that. So it's just things
which is not ideal for an offensive line.
No.
It's like you have one job to do, block that guy, right?
It's really not that ideal.
Oh, no, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I completely agree. The sixth-round pick was an inside linebacker. I thought that was a little bit of an odd pick considering what they did in free agency, but Andrew Jackson, I mean, kind of a really southern name. Give us your thoughts about that. Western Kentucky. Woo! Western Kentucky, WKU.
Honestly, I didn't really. This is going to sound bad, but after a few of the picks, I just kind of tuned out of our draft. It was one of those things that
It doesn't sound bad at all.
Like, I even wrote it in my draft recap. I was just kind of like, like, cut my losses.
They drafted a couple of more guys. We'll see how they do, kind of thing.
Yeah, there were the three that I was really like, why was the defensive end, Newsome. And then I was just really excited about Moncrief. I watched game footage after
Oh,
we.
I know. That's a great one.
Yeah, so it was. I don't know.
Yeah. The inside linebacker position, I did not think was one of their weaker positions, but you never know, and it's always good to have quality young linebackers. We'll see whether he's able to develop and do anything. I mean, obviously they're going to need some linebackers, especially considering the Robert Mathis situation. And so, I guess we'll see. And then the last pick was actually an offensive tackle, a guy who you would think that his name would be switched, Ulrich John. It should be John Ulrich, right?
Yeah,
But
I'm not sure.
yeah,
It was nobody was really like excited about it. It was just kind of like okay, a depth thing. I haven't really
I
seen
had
many.
never heard of him until the Colts drafted him. I had to go look him up.
Yeah, me either. It was one of those things where I think people were just kind of like, well, they had to draft somebody and they had a hole to fill, I guess, you know what I mean? So it can't hurt to have more guys for our front line than less, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't really pay attention to the bottom end of the draft, so I
Now, if
didn't
you
really him either.
if you had to stack up the drafts in the AFC South from top to bottom, top being obviously the team that you felt had the best draft, and the bottom the worst draft, how would you rank it?
Well, we all know who would be on the bottom. It was definitely us.
The Colts. Okay.
Probably the top. It's a close call between the Jaguars and the Texans. They both filled a lot of key
I
needs.
thought they both did well too.
Yeah, the team that I'm most excited to see because of their draft is definitely the Jaguars, though.
Yeah.
Everybody keeps saying, like, "Ooh, quarterback doesn't change anything," but it does. And they have a new quarterback. They have a couple of really good weapons for him. So, I mean, they spruced up their O-line as well. They filled their holes. So, I think they're going to be a much better team this year.
I thought they had an outstanding draft. I thought they had a nice free agency. I love what Gus Bradley and their new GM are building in Jacksonville. He came from that Seattle tradition, and he watched Pete Carroll and the GM of John Snyder, work their magic and build their stuff. And you know what? The Jags aren't going to be world beaters this year. I think they're going to be improved, but they're a team to watch
Mm-hmm.
in the division.
They're definitely rebuilding really well. They're doing what we should be doing, and I mean, time will only tell because everybody is apt to have a bad draft class after having a good one. But I think they did a really, really good job this year in off season, and I'm excited because the Jaguars are one of those teams where you never see Jaguar fans. I'm always rooting for them. I'm always like, come on, Jacksonville, you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a soft spot. It sounds weird coming from a Titans fan when you consider the fierce rivalries between the two teams early on. But the Jacksonville Jaguars Twitter is hilarious. I love to sit back and just watch those guys, and in a sense, although it hasn't been as long, but it reminds me a little bit of Detroit Lions. They're long-suffering fans and everything, and the Giants have had their fans have just had to go through some atrocious years where their GM just pooped the bed and wasn't able to do anything, to build anything. But I think now they're on the right track, and I'm really kind of anxious to see. They keep saying that they're not going to start Blake Bortles. We'll see about that. I do wonder if that temptation isn't going to be there because he's a guy who's he's big and tall and strong and he looks the part. He still needs work. There's no question, but you just have to wonder whether he's going to outplay. And I like Chad Henne, but you have to wonder if he's going to outplay Chad Henne enough in training camp to where the Jags are like, well, let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I like Chad Henne too. I definitely liked him a lot more than Gabbert. Weird, the 49ers picking up Gabbert to me.
I know, that was very strange.
Like, for draft picks, I wouldn't give up draft picks for Gabbert, so sorry,
Yeah.
but I don't care how low down they are. I wasn't a huge fan of Gabbert, but I like Chad Henne.
That was an odd draft pick. I'll never forget that draft, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, that Gabbert is all I have to say. But I do like Chad Henne. I don't know. I don't know if they'll. I kind of hope that they start Blake Bortles, just because I'm always a fan of the rookie QB, and Chad
It'll be
Henne's
exciting.
Yeah, Chad Henne's always there to step in too. He's always ready to just clean up whatever's happening. I remember we played them once, and Gabbert was just all over the place. And as soon as Chad Henne stepped in, they were immediately better. So
oh yeah.
He's a confident enough guy that he can sit on the bench and then just get on the field and take over.
The first time that I saw Chad Henne play in person, he was a member of the Miami Dolphins, and the Titans were playing the Dolphins, and I went to Miami to watch the game, and you know what? He beat us. So people like to talk about Chad Henne, but he knows how to win football games, and he's he's not going to set the world on fire, but he's a savvy vet who can get you in a position. I think if you've got a strong defense, and they are building a strong defense, I mean, he can win games for you. So yeah, kind of exciting times in Jacksonville. I'm happy for their fans. The Texans, I agree with you. Their draft was very good, except the caveat. And nothing against Tom Savage. I never understood all the Tom Savage hype. And then, the Matt Schaub thing, he's now in Oakland. And they pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was with the Titans. And so I had a chance to get to see him a lot last year, because unfortunately Jake Locker cannot stay healthy, and we'll talk about the Titans next. But do you think that their quarterback situation is settled enough that the Texans are going to be able to compete in the division?
Fitzpatrick's not bad. Fitzpatrick's never going to be like the greatest QB. Like, we're not going to be talking about Fitzpatrick for years to come. But he's a good QB. He's a good enough guy to get them going. And I know that they picked up a QB in the draft as well. So I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, Tom Savage.
Yep. So I'm sure that sitting behind Fitzpatrick, it's kind of like having Hasselbeck, because he has the knowledge to watch a game and tell you, like, this is what you should be watching. These are the important things to look for. He'd be really helpful for a rookie, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a great person. I think he's a hard worker. He's a great teammate. He has moments where he's a really good quarterback who can make plays and move the ball down the field. It's the turnovers with Ryan Fitzpatrick that are just killers. And if they can get him to not commit as many turnovers, then I think that they will definitely be able. I mean, look, they only won. It's amazing to say this and to think this. The Texans only won 2 football games last year. Who would have dreamt that going into 2013? They were the princess of the division. They were expected possibly to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep. It was a crazy season. I'm actually like a closet Texans fan.
Oh yeah? Do you like J.J. Watt?
I love Brian Cushing so much.
Okay.
They know that I love Brian Cushing. And watching him get hurt 2 years in a row was just like, I'm just hoping he can stay healthy this year, so that I just want to see one of our players get hit by Brian Cushing. That's it.
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. No, I agree with you. I really felt badly for Brian Cushing getting injured again last year. That was, there's so many. And then, Gary Kubiak collapsing on the sidelines. They had so many different things. And now they've got the Andre Johnson drama going on. By the way, I am a big Andre Johnson fan. I am like one of the biggest Andre Johnson fans in the world. And so I'm definitely on Team Dre. But that is not helpful for them for their very great wide receiver to be unhappy. But I can't blame him. How do you feel about what's going on with Andre Johnson?
I'm not totally up on the situation just because I haven't caught a lot of it, but I'm pretty sure it's because they marked him as a tight end. He's making tight end dollars, but he's a wide receiver. Am I right?
No, that's I think you're thinking about Jimmy Graham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Andre Johnson is he is a guy who could be in the Hall of Fame. He is a wide receiver who's good enough. I shouldn't say it like that. With a different offense and a more settled quarterback situation throughout his career, he could have Hall of Fame numbers. Unfortunately for Andre Johnson, he's had to play on. It's almost like the Texans are rebuilding like every 3 or 4 years, and so. He's wanting to be traded. He's like 32, 33 years old, and obviously their quarterback situation is he's basically back where he was last year. Matt Schaub, Ryan Fitzpatrick. If you had to compare those two, do you think there's really that much difference between Matt Schaub and Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I don't think that there's a huge enough difference that it would be hard to create. Like, you wouldn't have to make a new offense. So, I don't know. I think it'll be an easy enough switch over, but, I mean, they both throw a lot of picks. So
yeah. they called Matt Schaub Matty Pick 6 last year. So
yeah. So
but anyway, he's going to join the team. I don't think that there's any way that he sits out the season. I think that he will join the team. I haven't seen the latest on whether or not he plans to sit out training camp. Their training camp opens next week as well, so I guess we'll see. But he definitely is unhappy. He sat out. He did not attend their OTAs. He announced before their off-season activities even began that he wasn't going to attend, and came out and said he wanted to be traded. Unfortunately for him, his contract, and he could definitely redo his deal to facilitate a trade. I don't know that the Texans have any desire to do that, and I don't know why that they would. And even though that I'm on Team Dre, you would have to, at some point, those two, the team and Andre Johnson, they're going to have to come to some sort of workable relationship, because it does not look like the Texans are going to trade him. And, unfortunately for him, it's either sit out and, lose that year of playing time, which a 33-year-old wide receiver really can't afford. So, yeah, I guess that we'll see. I do think the Texans are going to win more than 2 games this year, though, don't you?
For sure. I can see the Texans actually, I hope that the Texans beat us, to be perfectly honest, because it's not fun being practically handed 6 games every season. It makes us look bad, to be honest. Like, it makes us look like we're given games. And I have a friend who is in this room who always harps on me about how we're given 6 games every season. So I really hope that I really root for the Texans deep down, secretly inside. I really, really hope that they win at least half their games or something.
I like a lot of the Texans players too. I was a big fan of DJ Swearinger when he played at the University of South Carolina. Jungle Boy, my girl Claire, and I love to talk about DJ and Andre and a lot of their other players too. I think that they're going to be better this year. How much more improved, we will see. All right, let's talk about my Titans. New coaching staff, a lot of new players. their quarterback situation is still a little bit of a dilemma for them, I think, because while Jake Locker has shown talent, he can't stay healthy. And now you've got guys behind him. Clipboard Jesus, Charlie Whitehurst is going to be the backup now. Then you've got Tyler Wilson and Zach Mettenberger, who will be competing for that third spot. Now, if you could call it a competition, I think Zach Mettenberger has to be the favorite there because the new Titans coaching staff doesn't have any ties. Tyler Wilson was picked up by the old staff, the current GM. So I guess we'll see, how that plays out during. Hopefully Jake will stay healthy, and we can see whether he's able to, because when he was healthy last year, he really looked good. Once he started getting injured, he didn't play nearly as well as he had at the beginning of the season. How did you feel about their draft?
I think that you filled the holes that you really needed to fill, and that's very admirable with your 6 picks. I mean, you guys did a really good job of just making sure that all your bases were covered, and that's what the draft's for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Bishop Sankey pick, I really thought, you knew that they were going to be looking for a running back after releasing Chris Johnson, and Sankey is definitely a talented guy. Their first round draft pick is an offensive tackle, Taylor Lewan. I'm not the biggest fan of the pick. Everybody knows that. Probably not going to be expected to play this season, at least not early on. I wouldn't expect. You might be able to play his way into the starting lineup, but their left tackle he enters the last year of his contract, and so they're not going to be scrambling around trying to replace him. They've already got a guy waiting in the wings, developing, and all of that. Then the running back situation, they did not have a third round pick, fourth round pick. Actually, a couple of fourth-round picks, Marcuston Huff and Daquan Jones, and then Daquan Jones might have actually been their fifth-round pick, and then the fifth-round pick was Avery Williamson, and then Zach Mettenberger. So yeah, I thought that they overall did a pretty good job. There were a few things that I thought that they could have done a little bit better. But yeah, when you compare what they did to what the Colts did, I think that you definitely have to say that the Titans are above the Colts. Pretty much everyone I've talked to has been like, yeah, Texans and Jags at the top, Colts and Titans at the bottom. How do you think that the division is going to ultimately play out?
I mean, hopefully, speaking as a Colts fan, completely biased, I still feel like we're going to win the division. I mean, that's just like.
I don't know. I think that they have to be the favorite to win the division.
Sure.
There's no. Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think it's going to be a close race between the Titans and probably the Texans this year. I mean, the Jaguars, it's one of those things where they still have like. I almost think with the Jaguars, it's almost like a morale thing, like it was with the Texans last year. They seemed so distracted by everything, and the Texans on paper should have done a lot better than they did last year.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, I hope that they can get over their last season and do well. Ideally, I would love it if it was Colts, Texans, Titans, Jags in our division, but I feel like it's going to be a really close race between all 4 of us this year.
Yeah. Is Dante Moncrief your favorite pick out of the Colts draft?
Yeah, for sure. I think that he'll actually be used. I would expect to see him. He creates a lot of. He's good to have in the wings. You know what I mean? It's just watching us flounder for a wide receiver last season after Reggie Wayne went out with an ACL, and just really, really depending on Ty. It was hard to watch.
So much.
Yeah, it was like all you had to do was cover Ty, and you stopped our play.
Yeah, and they lost Dwayne Allen too, and that was a huge loss as well. And I know a lot of people are higher on Coby Fleener than I am. Between Coby Fleener and Dwayne Allen, I think Dwayne Allen is lights light years better.
I totally
He
agree with you.
he's going to be back. I think that's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome to have Dwayne Allen back. Dwayne Allen, Vic Ballard, and Bradshaw. I'm so excited to have them on the field. Everyone that knows me knows that I like Brian Cushing and Vic Ballard so much. I tweet Vic Ballard all the time. I love
That's
Vic
so
Ballard.
funny.
Yeah.
No, why do you like Vic Ballard so much?
He's just like he's such a good running back. He was so clutch in his rookie year, just being like, oh, just give the ball to Vic and we'll get a first down. That's almost how it was in his rookie year. He was just so dependable, and you knew that he would just find a hole, punch through it. Vic Ballard has your first down, and he's just so, like, he's such a, just on Twitter, his tweets are so great. I love reading his tweets. They're not, like, crazy funny or anything, but he's just so down to earth and normal, and I just really like Vic Ballard.
Well, I think that's great. Yeah, having those guys back and healthy. Although I still have some questions about how. Look, the drop off for running backs is so fast. Do you think that Ahmad Bradshaw is going to be able to come back?
I really hope so, because I know that in the first few games that we had where he was healthy last season, he was great. Our run game was actually one of the best in the league at the beginning of the season, and it was exciting to watch somebody with so many rings on our team just like being him. And I hope that he can come back. A lot of people were saying keep Donald Brown, scratch Bradshaw, he's getting old, stuff like that. And I mean, I hope that he can stay healthy this year again and do something for us. But I know that it's a short contract he has with us, so I know that they're not really thinking super long term with him either.
Well, I guess we'll see. Now, will you keep up with training camp? I don't know. I know it'll be hard to come down and attend any, but do they televise any of their training camps? Do you know?
I don't know if they televise them, but Indiana is so out of market for us. We would never see it. The only games that we see up where we live are Patriots, Steelers, like Bills games.
The
That's
big
the only coverage
games.
we really get, yeah.
Yeah, the Titans have an app now, and they instituted that last year, and fans were able to watch some of the training camp practices via that app. I didn't know if the Colts had anything like that or not. They should. I think that that's a great tool for, especially for fans who aren't local or aren't otherwise able, or disabled, handicapped, and can't make it out to training camp. Are you excited about football's almost back?
Yes, I'm super excited. I don't have anything to do on Sundays, and I'm just kind of sitting around on Sundays, and I'm like, you know what I wish was on? Football, because I have nothing to watch. So I'll be excited.
Did you watch any of the World Cup? Are you a soccer fan at all?
I was actually rooting for Germany.
Were you?
Yes, Germany won, yay. But
They did, yeah.
I work as well at a soccer club, so we watched
okay.
games during the day.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is really, really, really cool. Now, so what are you working on right now? Are you working on any articles or anything, any kind of big projects?
Well, for me right now, I'm focusing on my actual work with the soccer club. I'm putting on a big event. It's for our little tykes, the
Aww.
team jamboree. So I've been working really hard on that. I've been super busy with that, and then probably it's just going to go straight into our college season, and I'm back with the Griffins for the end of August. So
now, are you off right now from the Griffins?
Yeah, I do here and there. Like I just finished football profiles and things like that for them, but it's mostly just during the season that I'm there.
Okay, all right. And so they start back up in August.
End of August. Yep. I think that our first game is the Labor Day weekend.
All right. Okay. Well, Cecily, the hour always goes by so fast. I want to thank you again for. Before we sign off, I did want to ask you this. Pick a player. Doesn't necessarily have to be a rookie, although it can be. But pick a player on the Colts that you think could have a breakout season in 2014.
Well, I think that Vic Ballard could. I really do.
Okay.
I think that he could do big things as a running back. I see him being a starter closer. I see him being a starter probably 3 weeks in. He'll be in the starting lineup. And I think that just based on his rookie season, with the time he's had with the Colts now, I think that he could do big things this season.
Are there any position groups in training camp that you think are going to be very, very competitive this year?
The wide receivers, probably. I
Okay.
definitely see a lot of competition with the wide receivers this year.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. Well, I want to thank you again for joining me. Come back in and tell everybody where they can find you, and shout out the Griffin's website, and where they can follow you on Twitter.
Well, you can definitely follow me on Twitter and basically every other social media at Coach Your Writer, which is right there. Griffins.ca is where you can catch all your Griffin news, and during the season, schedules will go up soon, and we'll be live streaming all the games, so you can
Oh,
catch all the
cool.
Griffin action there for sure. The football streams are always really good, and I know that we're gonna have a good season, so should catch Griffin games.
I'm definitely going to do that. I think that that's so awesome that you're doing that, and I'm definitely going to check it out. And we need to get you to come on our Tuesday night NFL female show. I hope that you'll now. Will you have some time maybe to do that before you go back to work?
I'll try my best. I work pretty late, so I'll definitely try my best.
I know I tried so hard to get we tried so hard to get you on this show, and I really am grateful that you were able to find time to do it, and I hope that you will come back and join me. It was really great, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad to finally meet you in person.
I know, we're the AFC South people. We need
We
to talk more.
are.
You're
Yeah,
like one of my favorite Twitter people too. I have to
I
say that.
know you are too for me. I'm so excited to be talking to her. So, yeah, this has been great. So I want to thank you again. Once again, this is the Extra Point. I'm Sharona, the host. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. We come to you live every Friday night, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time via the National Gridiron Network, www.nationalgridironnetwork.com. Next week, big week for the Extra Point, we are going to be doing a back-to-back 2-night event. We're going to be doing training camp previews of the AFC South and the NFC South. I'll be posting those shows. I hope that you will join us. Thursday night, 6 p.m., Friday night, 6 p.m. Sharona's going to be a busy, busy girl next week. But hey, football's almost back, so I hope that you'll tune in. Have a great Friday night, a great weekend, and we will catch you next week.